Hello, I'm Samantha Nicholas,
And I'm Devin Freeman.
and we are going to be talking about Abraham Lincoln and why he was such a good president. To start off this presentation, we're going to go over a timeline of the most important things that happened during Lincoln's presidency. On March 4th, 1861, Lincoln was inaugurated as the 16th President of the United States and the first Republican president.
On April 12th, 1861, the Battle of Fort Sumter started the Civil War after the Confederate soldiers opened fire at Charleston Harbor at 4:30 a.m. A few days later, on April 15th, Lincoln called for the rebellion to end and for the 75,000 militiamen to stop. On July 21st, 1861, the Battle of Bull Run took place near Manassas, Virginia. The Confederate General Beauregard defeated the Union forces.
On March 9th, 1862, it marks the first duel between two ironclad warships. It affected trade, and the Confederates converted a wooden ship into an ironclad gunship. On April 16th, slavery was abolished in D.C. Lincoln told his cabinet about his plans to issue the Emancipation Proclamation on July 22nd, 1862. And a few months later, on September 22nd, Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation to go into effect on January 1st, 1863.
With that being said, on January 1st, 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation went into effect and freed all slaves in the Confederate areas in the South. The Battle of Gettysburg took place on July 1st, 1863, and was the war's greatest engagement. There were 23,000 casualties for the North and nearly 30,000 casualties for the South. On November 19th of 1863, Lincoln made his famous Gettysburg Address during a dedication ceremony of a national cemetery. Lincoln offers a full pardon to Southerners who take on an oath on December 8, 1863.
Lincoln was renominated for president by the Republican National Convention, and Andrew Johnson was nominated as vice president on June 7, 1864. On November 8th, Lincoln won the election to serve his second term as president.
On January 31st, 1865, the House of Representatives approved the 13th Amendment, which called emancipate all slaves. The Freedmen's Bureau, which was created to help Southern blacks who were affected by the war, was created on March 3, 1865.
Lincoln was inaugurated on March 4, 1865. The next month, on April 14th, Lincoln was shot by John Wilkes Booth around 10:15 p.m. By 7:22 a.m. on April 15, 1865, Lincoln had died, and Andrew Johnson was sworn in as the 17th president.
We will move on to details about the election. The election took place on November 6, 1860. Lincoln was a Republican and was running against John C. Breckinridge, a Southern Democrat, Stephen A. Douglas, a Democrat, and John Bell, a Constitutional Union candidate. The map shows the Electoral College votes for each candidate. Lincoln had 180 college votes. John C. Breckinridge had 72 Electoral College votes. John Bell had 39 Electoral College votes, and Stephen A. Douglas had 12. The popular votes were Lincoln with 1,866,452, Douglas with 1,380,202, Breckinridge with just over 847,000, and Bell with just over 509,000.
While Lincoln was president, he did many great things, such as leading the Union through the Civil War, serving as commander-in-chief. He helped end slavery with the Emancipation Proclamation, and he had many great speeches like the Gettysburg Address. His vice presidents were Hannibal Hamlin and Andrew Johnson.
During the Civil War, Lincoln was the commander-in-chief, and he helped to do many things, like make strategic plans to help preserve the Union. Some of his strategies included a naval blockade, trying to scare the enemies with more numbers, and focusing more on innovation.
Lincoln's most famous speech was the Gettysburg Address, which was given on November 19, 1863, at the dedication of the Soldiers' National Cemetery in Gettysburg. He did the speech for the soldiers that had died in the Battle of Gettysburg. It was a brief speech that had a big impact that talked about freedom and how we were fighting for equality.
The Emancipation Proclamation was proposed to Lincoln's cabinet on July 22, 1862. With it being issued on September 22nd, it went into effect on January 1st, 1863. The proclamation was set to free all Southern slaves. There were 50,000 blacks who were freed immediately, with 200,000 other blacks joining the war efforts with the Union Army.
Some fun facts you may not know about Lincoln is that he was born in Kentucky, but grew up mostly in Indiana due to land disputes and slavery issues that were happening in 1816 when he was 7. He stayed in Indiana until 1830 when he moved to Illinois. He is also the most written about figure in American history, with over 18,000 books being devoted to him. Lincoln was a legendary wrestler who only had one loss in over 300 matches. He was induced into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame in 1922 as an outstanding American. He is the tallest U.S. president we have ever had at 6'4", with the second, Lyndon B. Johnson, just being half an inch shorter than him. He was the last president to ever go under enemy fire, and he is on the $5 bill.
Some lesser-known facts about Lincoln's presidency were that he actually founded the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the USDA, on May 15, 1862. It was established to provide leadership on food, agriculture, and natural resources. He also signed legislation that created the U.S. Secret Service. Lastly, he signed the Morrill Land Grant Act and gave states land to build colleges for the purpose of teaching agriculture, military tactics, and mechanic arts.
Lincoln was born on February 12, 1809 and died on April 15, 1865, meaning he lived to be 56 years old. He had just started his second term as president when he was assassinated by the actor John Wilkes Booth in the Ford Theater in D.C. Lincoln was the 16th president of the United States. He was also self-educated and taught himself reading, writing, arithmetic, and later law studies he had learned from books he had borrowed. He never went to any college, but he passed the bar exam just off the stuff he taught himself.
Thank you for listening to our presentation.